Thank you kindly, Dennis. So with this, with the 30-minute meditation, I'll do a, say in 3 parts. So we'll do like a 1 minute of loving kindness to get some positivity, get some mental energy, and then we'll do this sort of darkness meditation, which draws your attention away from thoughts and feelings and the physical body, and then we'll spend the remainder of the session, say on watching the breathing, the breathing meditation at the level of the abdomen. And one of the reasons for this is that because with your Tantian, your chi point is located just below your belly button, that you'll actually find that quite energizing. So people who ever suffer from, say, drowsiness or lack of mental or energy, or you've been working, 8, 10, 12 hours a day and you feel quite tired, that you can actually draw, because it's a chi point, you can actually draw energy from that area and draw it into the meditation, and you find that it helps to increase alertness. So with the instructions, so if you just get yourself in a comfortable position with your back straight and your head upright and comfortable. Usually we keep the legs crossed and we keep the hands in the lap because it helps to draw both mental and physical energy inwards, because that's the direction you want to go. You want to go into the mind. And so what I want you to do first, so once you get yourself in a comfortable posture, I want you to use this particular mantra. This is the loving kindness meditation, so we're going to increase the level of energy, positivity, joy, which will help facilitate the coming together of the mind, the drawing together of the mind into more stillness, greater peacefulness. And because anyone who gets good meditation, you've got to have mental energy. You've got to have a minimum degree of happiness and positivity to do that. So choose a mantra which is important to you. It can be like may I. It could be something like, say, may I be happy and well, and say free from all sorrow, or may I be, say, positive, joyful, and have a positive attitude, or may I be blissful and peaceful. And it could be anything. It could be, say, loving in nature. So whatever words are actually important to you, may I be such and such, and then you choose the mantra of your choice, and just say that very, very slowly, and say it continuously for the next 60 seconds, just silently in the mind, and then we'll move across to the darkness meditation for 5 minutes, and then we'll do the meditation, so like the tummy meditation, abdominal breathing meditation for the rest of the session. So just do your mantra silently for the next 60 seconds. And what I want you to do now is, as your eyes are closed, is just to focus on that dark colour, dark space in the mind. And we've got the lights on in the hall, but you'll see some like darkness, absence of light, darkness in the mind, dark colour. And I just want you to focus on that. And the reason we do this is to draw attention away from thoughts and feelings. And the physical body is quite a neutral object, so I want you to do that for the next 5 minutes. want you to do now is now drop your attention down to the abdomen. So as you're breathing in and out, in the tummy section, I want you to watch the breathing cycle right at that point. And you might find this, more energizing, and there's more alertness involved because of the Tantian chi point. And so as the abdomen rises and falls, I just want you to watch the breathing cycle right at that point for the rest of the session. So as you develop this meditation, just focus on the feelings, the physical feelings as the abdomen rises and falls. Anybody feels a bit drowsy or sleepy, just take slow, deep breaths into the base of the abdomen and maximize the level of oxygen reaching the brain. If you find that you're still thinking excessively, then you need to actually contemplate the mind state, the thoughts, the feelings. You know, you could be thinking about a certain person, try to understand, you know, everything why. You know, you think about that certain person, certain time, certain place. Could be any kind of circumstances, events, anything in the past that if the peace is being obstructed, Try to understand exactly what's happening there with the thoughts and the feelings, because the more you understand the mental state, the experience, the mind then understands, and it actually lets go and relinquishes much more easily. The clinging, it reduces. People who are like very, very drowsy, you can meditate with your eyes open to keep oneself awake. coming towards the end of the session, so just see if you can see any difference in the quality of the mind state, and I'll ring the gong 3 times and you can open your eyes when you're ready.